Hey everybody, it's B here, and today I have my third place regional performance ramp Gogeta burn deck for you here today. I ended up piling this deck over 7 rounds of Swiss to finally end up X1 and placing in third place in Carta Magica's official Bandai regional, which was super. I don't know. There was a point in the tournament where I was like 4-1 and I was just kind of looking at it like clustered, like I don't even know how we got here. But nevertheless, we did end up pushing it all the way into a top finish, which is absolutely amazing for the deck. And I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone who was on stream with me. I stream every Monday through Wednesday and on weekends for tournament runs just like these. And if you guys want to watch me run decks like this during tournaments, hey, link down in the description. And while we're talking about links in the description, if you guys want to pick up any of the cards that I talk about in today's video, then go on to 3 Mana Inc. They are the best place in Canada to get your singles and sealed product guaranteed. But with that said, let's just jump right into the deck. And you guys already know Ramp Gogeta, one of my favorite decks, focuses around ramping to get to an absurd amount of energy to then just burn out your opponent. If you guys just want the deck list though, like here it is, guys. All my decks are on DBS Deck Planet, is my official deck building website that I use. So links to my profile, if I can do that, will be down in the description if you guys want just the deck list. But here it is. Here's the show. There's a couple of quirky ratios or like weird card additions, and we can talk about that as we go through the deck. But with that said, we'll just go card by card. So we start off with the leader front side. Activate main. Once per turn, you get to look at the top 5 of your deck. You get to either find a Vegeta BR, Veku BR, or a Goku BR, which are effectively your combo pieces to set you off on your ramp journey. He awakens on 4 life and untaps 2 energy. Now the pieces we're running are 4 Godly Auras of Vegeta, where you don't really care about their autos. When they're played, they allow you to search for a 1 card extra card. So this card was built to run with the red Gogeta stuff, but because they have Union Fusion abilities, these cards actually work really well on our side to help us add some consistency, as well as prevent our opponent from doing things like preventing us from awakening or anything like that. So right off the bat, we have 4 Godly Aura Vegetas. These ones allow us to look at the top 7 when we Union Fusion and add a Gogeta to our hand. If we do so, we pitch a card, so allowing us to find the further combo pieces to the entire deck outside of just the Vegeta, Goku, Veku pieces. The Goku on Union Fusion allows us to take 1 life, so getting us closer to our awakening, because once you are at these higher energy levels, 5, 6, 7 energy, you really want to be on your awakened side, because that's where your leader accrues the most amount of value. And finally, Veku Defective Fighter. This is the one where Union Fusion for 3 when it is KO'd, so not when it's removed, so be careful if your opponent goes ahead and negs him even through the barrier, or if it gets sent to warp or back to hand. Anything outside of KO will not proc his ramp ability. But 10k barrier blocker, and then when it's KO'd, you have to return 1 Goku and Vegeta from your drop to your hand. This is a cost, guys, so don't forget this. You have to do so. If by somehow you end up having your Goku or Vegeta warped away, you will not be able to use the Veku unless you somehow combo something else, or you find a way to pitch them in before Veku dies. It is part of the cost, but if you do so, you get to ramp from the top 2 of your deck, and that is permanent, which is absolutely insane. Meaning that once we're on turn 3, your next turn you will be at 6 energy, which is absolutely insane and is a huge swing for tempo if you're able to do stuff with that energy moving forward. Now, being a combo deck, that's not the only thing we're trying to do. We're not just trying to get to 6 for all the sake of value, as much as we can accrue a bunch of great value on it, but we are trying to kill our opponent. So once we are at 6, turn 4, we then go into SS Gogeta All Out Assault. Barrier, Energy Exhaust, 25k, activate main for 5, so 1 red, 1 blue, and then 3. You get to shuffle in all Gokus and Vegetas from your drop into your deck, and if you do so, you get to play them out. So it's a cheaper way. You don't have to tap out, which is always nice in a blue deck, because it means you can keep 1 up blue to then be able to beam, to be able to dimension magic, and be able to extend your defensive plays beyond what Gogeta does. At the end of the turn, you place 2 cards from the top of your deck into your energy, and then the skill is negated for the rest of the game. Specifically on the copy of the card that is in play. If you somehow end up playing another SS Gogeta, then you're able to activate the skill once again. But effectively, this now gets us to 9 energy, which is the absolute sweet spot, because then we evo our next turn into SSB Gogeta Frenzied Burst. 10 cost, EX evolves for 8, which will have 9, which pans out really well. 35k barrier, and the entire chain has barrier, from all the way from Veku, Gogeta to SSB Gogeta, which is absolutely amazing. When this card evolves into this card, take the top 6 cards from top of your deck, add them to your energy, and then has an activate main once per turn. If you have 15 or more energy, choose up to 4 of your opponent's life and place them at the bottom of their deck in any order. And this is the burn. This is our win condition. Generally, we don't have to work very hard. We can poke in a lot of damage throughout the turns to be able to get our opponent to 4. It's not really that bad. And then just a clean sweep 4. And guess what? He's got barrier. So 35k barrier at 10 drop is very hard to remove for most decks, outside of like hard ignore barrier removal. So as such, I've played many games. I think there were 2 games at least where I played on stream where I burned for 4. It didn't kill my opponent. Passed to their turn. I now have an additional like 7 energy or something like that to be able to do stuff with. So I just chill. I have all my defensive options, and then I just go ahead and win the next turn afterwards, because it's not once per game, it's just once per turn. And that's generally the combo plan. Very much is turn 1, turn 2, you're just doing your setups, trying to find all your combo pieces. Turn 3, you Veku. Turn 3, you SS Gogeta. And then turn 4, you SSB Gogeta, which, you know, is a very clean, it's very Invoker-esque. And that's the biggest thing, right? They took away Invoker. Well, I'm going to burn my opponents in some other way. So we run playsets of everything except for the Frenzied Burst. You want to see the Frenzied Burst, but not early, because it's a dead piece until you actually win off. The SS Gogeta also does great dual functions as being a red-blue on turn 1. I like charging 1 turn 1 because it means that a turn 2 Toppo is live, as well as a turn 2 Zeno, both of which are pretty important for the deck. Mentioning Zeno. If we don't win with the burn plan, we need to do some other things. The burn plan can be really shaky against cards that are really good at preventing us from playing cards on board, or that manipulate our drop in any way, shape, or form, because they definitely slow down our ability to ramp by turning off our Vekus, turning off our Gogetas. Because again, SS Gogeta will require you to have at least 1 Goku and Vegeta in your drop before you go off and do the ramp thing. So we need to be a little bit better about our mid-range plan, and this is where the awakened side of our leader kicks in. SS Gogeta Unstoppable. When this card attacks, you get to draw 1 card, activate main for 2. You get the bottom deck one of your opponent's battle cards. There's no condition, it doesn't get around barrier, but besides that, you can bottom deck anything, and it's not once per turn. And in a deck where you can end up having like 15 energy, pretty good to just bottom deck, bottom deck, bottom deck, and then you're just chilling. And then activate main once per turn, you get to choose 1 of your energy placed in the drop area, draw 2 cards. So even if you don't have a great way to recurring a bunch of energy, sometimes just having the extra cards to be able to push in for game is super important. And this deck can go super massive hand size very, very quickly, especially when you combo with Zeno. So Zeno ramps us +2. And then the beauty is that if we have nothing to do with that extra energy, we can go ahead, use it for the removal that's on our awakened side, and then we can kill that same energy that would be going to drop anyways to draw 2 cards. So effectively, with Zeno, we are drawing 3 cards a turn. If you wanted to, I didn't run it in this version of the deck, but I have in previous, you run Saiyan Instincts, alright, sick. So I ramp, I use that energy to pitch away Saiyan Instincts, draw 2 cards. My leader swings, I draw a card. I use my leader's ability to kill the energy that I got with Zeno, I draw 2 more cards. I just drew 5 cards in 1 turn, which is such a sick combo, and definitely one that I've used in the past. And also, Zeno's just good because it's a board wipe in a defensive deck. It's super, super useful. I will say though, be careful. Zeno does have some negative synergy with a ramp deck where Veku is fine because Veku ramps on your opponent's turn. But when we go into the 6 drop as well as the 10 drop, because you are ramping with them, you cannot use Zeno's plus ability. So there is some negative synergy there, but generally Zeno is the game plan we go with when our main game plan isn't working out so hot. And he plays really well on curve, being on 2, as well as being able to line up a sick play where let's say our opponent is hyper aggressing us and he gets us down to 4 life by turn 1 or turn 2. Well, we do have a line where on turn 2 we can Zeno. We can +1, charge an energy, awaken our leader, untap 2. Now we have 3 up, and assuming we have our combo pieces in hand, we can go right into a Veku on turn 2, meaning that on our turn 3, if we can survive the onslaught, which will have 2 untap energy once Veku dies, we'll be at 5 energy. It's a little off tempo, it sets you back by like a turn effectively, but generally that's a great way to start setting up to be able to survive any really hard aggro that your opponent is pressing on you. So of course, I know we just play as a full playset. Then, obviously, there's defensive cards. We are a blue deck, combo deck, trying to get to turn 5, which means we need to get there somehow. And how we do this is going to be with the slew of defensive cards. If we're running 4 Zenos, there's no reason not to run 4 SS Trunks. God Sealing Technique allows us to be able to defend ourselves against our opponent. Just prevent them from being able to play any big boss monsters. And, you know, while God Sealing isn't as good as it used to be on release, it still hits a bunch of targets and definitely, you know, prevents your opponent from overwhelming or doing anything too crazy. Then there's Toppo. I'm running a playset of Toppo. This, especially in a best of 1 tournament where like, I know not everyone's going to be prepped to actually deal with Toppo. I told myself, you know what, we're just going to make sure that I can get to turn 5, and 4 Toppos is the way I'm going to go about in doing it. It taxes our opponent. It hits Go big decks, it hits go wide decks. Some decks it doesn't work as well at, but Toppo is effectively a catch-all for any deck that's trying to apply pressure to you, especially in a deck where we can accrue such a big hand size to outdo whatever our opponent, even if they're trying to punch through the Toppo. Then on top of Toppo, I do run the one Heroic Prospect. I only have one. Realistically, I could see myself running this at actually 2 or 3 copies. But again, if I only have one, that's fine. The Toppo will supplement, and the one here will help against any of the other go bigger decks in the game. Then we're a blue deck, so we run a playset of Dimension Magics. I'm running 3 Senzu Beans. I did have it at 4 initially, but I think 3 suited fine considering we always had the ability to have an energy up most of the time. And of course, we're a blue deck, so we're running Hatch. The best way to get to turn 5, hey, having one free turn to not have to worry about not having any energy up, to just do your thing and then know you can go into this, is a pretty good way of guaranteeing that you're at least going to see another turn. Then there's what we do if we're unable to ramp. Like I said, I get none of our pieces have deflect. So anything that prevents us from being able to get on board or that manipulates a drop means that we have a significantly harder time of actually being able to kill our opponent. So we need a alternative game plan. So for me, that's doing a cute combo here like SS4 Son Goku. He comes in and applies the floodgate to your opponent. They can't attack with battle cards unless they get rid of a battle card that costs 2 or more beforehand. So you're like board clearing as well as being able to mitigate the aggro your opponent might push on you the turn after. -1, you draw 2 cards and then you bottom deck 1, so you're helping out your hand. And the biggest thing is that he has an activate main -2 that you get to choose all your opponent's battle cards ignoring bear and return them to their owner's hand. Pretty sweet. I mean, it goes back to hand, so they get to use it. But it combos really well when we Android 17 them right afterwards. So the combo is effectively that we SS4, board wipe them, and then go into Android 17, and we win that game. And because our leader is so good at drawing cards, if we are going for the Android 17 plan, we just turn into a good attrition deck. There were a number of games, 2 or 3, I think, where I ended up winning with Android 17, and I didn't have a crazy board. Usually when you set up Android 17, you want a couple of battle cards, and a Bunyan board is also really nice. Anything to be able to mitigate being able to kill your opponent right afterwards. Generally, we just end up winning through attrition. I play my Android 17 on a board that's not that great, but because I can accrue such a hand advantage based on my leader popping energy to be able to draw additional cards, as well as using the Son Goku to be able to mitigate my opponent's board, or use the Zeno to board wipe or anything of the sort, it was very simple to be able, well, very simple. There was a lot of work, but it made it not impossible to be able to push our opponent just by winning the advantage game once we reset everything. And our 1-ofs, we are playing 1 Fu Shrouded in Mystery. Hey, we get to 6 relatively easy every game. Sometimes it's just good to be able to turn off your opponent for a turn. I won with this for 1 game. It's a good card. And we do have a massive hand. Sometimes just having an E Supreme Kai or a Champa, even if you want to run that instead, really good. I just double strike anything and let's try and kill our opponent. I actually didn't get to use this at any point in the tournament, but there were some positions where my opponent were at 2 life where realistically I could have went all in on this, and had it not won, I still would have been in a phenomenal position because I would have forced my opponent to get rid of a bunch of cards in hand, and I still would have been able to defend myself. But these are just 1-ofs. You see them if you do. But generally, you do want a side game plan in case the burn strategy isn't optimal against the deck you're playing with. So against Baby, they have a lot of stuff that prevents my stuff from hitting board, and most of my stuff doesn't have deflect. And because we can typically get to Android 17 before they do, at least with 1 or 2 ramps or something like that, generally we tend to walk out of that situation pretty okay. Finally, there's the super combo situation. We do randomly ramp. So because there are chances where we might be ramping a piece that we really want to see, Edge of Space super combo is super key at making sure that we're actually able to get the piece back into our hand that we want to see. I am only running 1 because turns out I actually only own 1. I really need to buy more copies of the card, but at the moment I only had out 1, so it did come useful. I did use it, but obviously you are going to see it less. So to supplement that, I ran Keeping Watch. I would love to run the Vegeta, but you can't always guarantee that you'll have blue energy. Because you're ramping randomly, there's a chance that you're gonna ramp into red cards, which would turn off Vegeta, and that would be super feels bad. So if I could, I would 100% run these. These run the benefit that I don't actually need to be at 4 life to get the 10k boost. So if ever I'm really just trying to defend myself to make sure I can see another day, hey, you know what, at least this will give me a boost, and it draws me a card. Old super combos will be okay, you know. But there's an argument to be made of just running straight up for Zenos. But the way this deck plays on curve, you never really have a great opportunity to play Zeno and expect it to live to the next turn to be able to then combo him away. So it's a bit tough. I like the guaranteed card draw of a super combo that just in hand I can combo and I'll be able to draw a card and start cycling those through. And that's the deck. Yeah, I mean, you got your combo pieces. I am a little bit greedy. I used to run this deck with like 6 Goku, 6 Vegetas, and a bunch of ways to be able to find more things. But the way the game plays out today, with the speed that the game plays out in, I think you just end up having to be a little bit more greedy in how you run the deck to be able to run the cards that allow you to be able to get to turn 5 to be able to win the game. But I'm telling you guys, there's so many ways you can build the deck. You can take out the Android 17 stuff. You can cut SS4. You can cut some of the Toppos. There's so many different ways to build the deck. Now, I will say there's a caveat. This tournament was best of one in an in-between format where we had a ban list, but we weren't in set 14. And, you know, there's a lot of things that allowed this to be a successful deck for this tournament, but it can be easily hated out. There's a lot of answers for this kind of deck, but regardless, it is a deck that has a sweet game plan, has very awesome lines of play, and provides you with a really interesting way to be able to play a ramp strategy, which is super awesome and something that I absolutely love. So if you guys are looking for a deck that's a great time, that draws cards, that has a game plan, but can be very flexible in the way that you want to go about that game plan, this is definitely the deck for you guys. And with that said, guys, that was Ramp Gogeta Burn. Probably still one of my favorite decks of all time. I absolutely love running this deck, and it actually performed. We finished off with a top 3 finish, which I couldn't ask for better. It was an absolutely amazing day. Thank you to all my competitors, everyone who watched me stream the tournament. It was an absolute blast. And I look forward to being able to play other exciting decks like these. And hey, maybe my jank ends up topping another one some other day. But with that said, guys, if you like the deck profile, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike it, thumbs down works too. If you want to watch more of my videos, more deck profiles, we are still doing 101s. Release weekend for set 14 Cross Spirit is at this Friday, I believe. So with that said, we are going to wrap up all our 101s to get you guys ready for the next competitive format. Subscribe button's in the corner. And with that said, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Ciao.